back to our program, Hollywood Structured. As some of you already know, our program is designed to help the young people who wish to enter the entertainment field, may it be in nightclub work as musician, comedian, singers, may it be the theater, film, or television. It is also designed to help the parents and the educators of those young people to help them understand their wants, their needs, and the pitfalls and the trap they may fall into in Hollywood unless thoroughly acquainted with the inner workings of Hollywood. Today, as usual, we have a special guest, someone who started as a ballerina, who thought of nothing else but dancing, who was forced, however, and she will explain the circumstances, to quit dancing and to become an actress touring in musical comedy and on Broadway. She always, however, carried with her what she called a hobby. Her hobby happened to be a small sewing machine. She is now a well-known and well-respected costume designer. Her name is Diana Eaton. Hello, Diana.
Hi.
Before, however, Diana shares her experience with us, I would like to address the young people out there and speak specifically today about something that I call prejudging, mainly prejudging yourself, which sometimes makes you miss a good opportunity for a career or for work. I imagine that I've done it. Many of you go to supermarket, go to drugstore, and wait in line to pay for your bill. And you pick up a magazine, and I'm not talking about the tabloid with all the gossips. I'm talking about good, slick magazine. Well, it seems that all the women, stars, model in those magazines, are tall and thin and beautiful, long flowing hair, and very glamorous. And all the men are tall, good-looking, rugged, a very good body, and a full head of hair. And you look at that magazine and you close your eyes, and in the mirror of your eyes, you compare yourself to those people. And you think, oh my God, I am too tall, too thin, too heavy, too this, too that, I am disabled. And for the men, maybe I'm beginning to have a receding hairline. Well, I want you to remember one thing. In order to make a movie, it takes more than the 2 stars, 2 or 3 stars. Those stars are usually surrounded by at least 50 very good actors. And around those 50 actors and the 2 stars, they're probably in the crew 40, 50, 60 people who all could be tall, short, skinny, heavy, disabled, or bald. Yet, they are all working in the entertainment field. And so can you, if you prepare yourself. I would like you to know yourself very well. You don't have to imitate anybody. You don't have to imitate anybody physically. You just have to be the best you can be. There is only one you. So, don't prejudge, and maybe the opportunity of working in this industry can present itself to you. Oh, before I forget, now that we are being seen outside of the Los Angeles area, I would like to invite you, if you have any questions, or if you wish for me to cover a program that you think I have not yet covered, to address your inquiry to Lilyan Chauvin, care of LCJ Production, P.O. Box 5542, Mission Hill, California, 91395. Now we will go back to our guest, Diana. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
And I would like to ask you your first question, which is, did you have any idea when you were a child that you would end up in Hollywood dressing up some of the biggest movie star and theatrical stars?
None whatsoever. My ambition was to be the greatest ballerina of all time, to be quite frank, and that's what all my training and all my focus was. I never thought I'd be doing anything but dancing the rest of my life.
Where were you born?
I was born in England, and I started my dance training there at age 2.5. And then my family immigrated to Canada when I was 10, and I continued my training there.
When you were in school, did you graduate from college?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What was your major?
I majored in history of art.
Why?
Why? Well, at the time, there was no theatrical program that would give me a BA, a college education. And history of art seemed like the nearest thing I could get to theater. So it seemed like a logical choice.
I see. Now, when you were in school, did you decide that you wanted to have a career only in dancing?
Oh, yes. That I knew from a very, very early age. So, you know, all through high school I was going and taking dance classes every night, and my whole life was very focused toward that.
What happened along the way?
Well, when I was 15, I got my big break, and I was dancing with the National Ballet Company of Canada. But by the time I was 16, I'd grown 2 more inches. And I was 5'8", and on point, I'm 6 foot tall. And that's too tall for a dancer. Most ballet dancers have to be quite petite.
Were you, in fact, taller than your male partners?
I was taller than my partners. I was taller than all of the other swans in the lineup.
So what happened?
Well, I was devastated.
Did they actually fire you or let you go?
Well,
or?
yes, the artistic director called me into her office one night after class and said, you know, we have to tell you something, and that your future here does not look very promising because of your height. And, you know, I cried a little, and then I called home and said, well, I'm coming home. And I remember...
Oh, because you were on the road at the time.
No, I was just in class. I mean, I called my mother and said, please come pick me up. But I do remember that almost instantly I said to her, well, acting classes, here I come. Because I knew that night that my dancing career had just been cut short, but that then I must go on and do something else. And, of course, theater was very much my life, so if I couldn't dance, then I was going to act.
I see. Were you devastated at the time, though?
Yes. Oh, terribly, terribly. Because I'd spent so much of my early life thinking only of dancing. And, you know, people will come up to me and say, how are you? How's you dancing? I mean, my whole personality was wrapped up with it. So it was quite a shock.
Now, did your parents, even though you were going to college, did your parents encourage you in the dance? And when you made the decision of becoming a dancer and not a doctor or lawyer, or did they approve?
They approved. I'm sure if you asked them the same question, they'd say, oh, yes, absolutely, we supported her. I sometimes felt a little bit that they'd wish I would do something more conventional and something more stable. I mean, I think people still think going into the theater means you're going to live a terrible life and never have any of the material things in life. And so they were worried about that.
Also, there's usually a bad stigma attached to it.
Yes.
You know, everybody that reads a tabloid think that everybody is this or this or this or that, when in fact it's not so.
Yes.
Okay, so now you are no longer a dancer as you want to be, and you decide to take acting lessons. Now you're still in Canada.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And how long did you study there?
Well, I studied all through my university. This happened, the dancing thing happened right at the end of high school. So I went on to university, and I started acting in the college plays. I did a number of productions there and studied acting. And by the time I was about 6 months into my first year at college, I knew I still wanted theater, and I still wanted to dance, but the kind of dancing I could do would be musical comedy, where my height would be an asset.
Do you sing also?
Not very well. Enough to get cast in some Broadway shows, but not to go on to great heights.
See, the two of us complement each other. I've done musical comedy also, but I
Yes.
don't dance.
Oh.
I just sing, so I fake
Nowadays
it.
you have to do everything. It's terrible.
No, it's true. As a matter of fact, it's very good for the young people to know that train yourself in acting, singing, dancing. It's all part of it.
Oh, yes.
All right. So
And I did take singing lessons all the way through, too. I
Did
would
you?
add, yes.
You did?
I knew it was important. I just couldn't do it very well.
Now, you're in Canada.
Yes.
You are how old now when your first opportunity presents itself at acting?
Well, actually, I left Canada immediately after I finished college. I mean, literally within a week. I had an opportunity to dance in My Fair Lady, the touring company, which was in Boston at the time, and I had met someone who'd suggested I come down and audition. So without even waiting for my graduation ceremony, I flew to Boston, auditioned, was accepted, and called home again and said, send my clothes, I'm off. And that started a year of the most wonderful tour of the United States with My Fair Lady.
Now, you were not too tall in My Fair Lady?
No.
How come?
No. Well, ballet dancing, you know, so much of it is the lifts and also incredibly difficult physical requirements. And, well, there just simply wasn't anyone to partner me. But in musical comedy, it's just a different kind of dancing. It's modern jazz dancing. And
But you hadn't trained for modern jazz.
no, but I went to class, and one of my first summers in New York, I spent the whole summer going to jazz classes with a dancer called Tim Everett, who was the lead in The Music Man, the film. And he was a wonderful jazz dancer, and he brought me into a different feel for dance, because ballet is very pulled up and very disciplined, and jazz is a much more relaxed, and you sink into your needs, and it's a whole different feel. And ballet dancers sometimes need to be retrained to be able to do a different kind of movement.
I see. Now, did you enjoy that?
Oh, yes. Yeah. New York was wonderful. I was in New York at the most exciting time of musical comedies, and all up and down the...
How long were you in New York after?
8 years altogether. Some of that was on the road, but about 8 years.
Now, did you carry that little
Yes.
sewing machine of
Yes.
yours with you?
I always loved
Why?
to sew. Well, it was something I enjoyed doing. It really was a wonderful relaxation for me. I loved to sew, and I used to bring my machine into the theater. And between matinee and evening performance, I would have whipped out a little skirt or a shift or something.
But why? Where did you learn this? Did you learn this in school? Do they teach that in Canada?
I actually went to a class at Singer Sewing Machine, taught a little class for teenagers. So I went and took the class. And
But you had, for no reason whatsoever? Or to make your own clothes?
to make
or?
my own clothes. I like clothes, and I thought if you could make your own, you'd get more. And I don't know, I like to do it. I think my mother sewed, and it just always intrigued me. So I took my sewing machine everywhere, and then pretty soon people in the company would come over and say, oh, that's a nice dress. Will you make one like that for me? So I started making clothes for everyone on Broadway. And I had a little line of dresses I'd take around backstage to all the theaters and sell them.
So you made extra money
Well,
besides.
extra money, yes. Always
That's
comes in
terrific.
useful.
Okay, now, you're on Broadway. What brings you to Hollywood?
Well, a couple of things. One was a man that I was interested in, but...
We don't talk about private life
no,
on this show.
no. I wouldn't have pursued that. But that was one reason. But the other was that it was sort of time for me to branch out into television and film, and I was told there's a lot of work out here, and you've done Broadway now, and you've done dancing, you've done some small acting parts, now you must come out and act in television and film.
So what did you do? Did you go to dramatic school here?
Yes, I always took class. My entire time as a performer, I always took class. I took dance class to keep in shape, I took singing classes to develop my voice, and I always took acting classes. But it's expensive, so you have to work, and of course you have to work to earn a living too. So, you know, my days were busy with classes and auditions and interviews, and my evening I went to my waitress job, because one has to pay the rent and pay the bills and be a responsible adult.
I understand that you opened a little shop at one time?
Yes. One of my part-time jobs was working in a boutique, And after I'd worked there a few weeks, I thought, well, I can do that. I'll open my own shop.
But don't you need money to do that?
Yes, and I didn't open it with very much, and so it was a bit of a struggle. I had a tiny little place just off Melrose, and I made a lot of the things myself, and you know, we struggled along, and actually it ended up doing quite well because I started doing patchwork dresses. At the time, patchwork dresses were very big, and it sort of caught on, so I did quite well for a while.
Now, when was your first break, your first big break?
My first big break was totally by accident. I met a man at a party who was the associate producer for the Anne Margaret show. And he was looking for a wardrobe coordinator for the Anne Margaret show in Las Vegas that had a lot of dancers and singers. And I said, oh, I couldn't do that. I haven't worked with costumes. And that was really my first lesson because had he not talked me into it, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. That job was the beginning of everything. And I really learned if someone offers you a job, they must believe you can do it. So say yes to everything and worry about it later.
That's very good advice, actually.
Yes. But do your homework.
Do your homework. Be prepared. Well, you certainly were prepared.
Yes.
Now, I understand that you held many jobs along the way. You repaired clothes, you...
Well, yes, this was still during my performing years. My parents gave me an excellent education, but they made it very clear that once I graduated from college, that was the end of support. And, you know, I couldn't just call home and say I'm a little short this month. So I worked as a cocktail waitress for quite a long time. I worked as a regular waitress. I did alterations. I did a little modeling. I used to model the clothes that I made for my boutique down at the auto show, you know, standing in front of a car going round. I mean, it was a little of everything.
Okay. Now you've got your first break, and you worked in a series that went on for quite a while.
Yes, I designed the clothes for The Facts of Life, and had a wonderful time with that. I did that show for 3 years, and enjoyed working with 4 wonderful girls.
Now we have a couple of sketches here.
Yes, we have a sketch of Kim Fields. We had a show where the girls ended up doing sort of fantasy sequence where they played hard rock musicians. So I had some fun with that. I dressed them all up in kind of wild and crazy clothes.
And you have another one up there also.
Yes, of Cloris Leachman, who's an absolutely wonderful actress. And we did another show where they were doing a fantasy that they were all still living together 30 years from now, and they'd all aged 30 years. So Cloris Leachman's character was now a 90-year-old woman. And so we had to turn her into a 90-year-old woman, which was difficult for us, but she's so brilliant an actress that it worked out well.
That's true. Now, I understand that you also design clothes for Raquel Welch.
Yes, I also did some things for her Las Vegas act, and some of her television appearances when she was working as, you know, singing and dancing.
Raquel is a good friend of mine, by the way.
Oh,
yes.
Lovely.
Now, you did other series, did you not?
Yes, I've done a number of television series. I did the Robert Guillaume show that was on last year.
Yes.
And last season also I did the Anne Julian show, and a show called Free Spirit, another show called Sweet Surrender. And I'm going to be doing a new show that's coming up for CBS's fall schedule.
How did you get your break into doing a series from doing wardrobe for stars in Vegas?
Well, that was very difficult. I worked as an assistant designer for quite a long time, which was wonderful for learning my craft.
Didn't you work with Bob Mackie?
Yes, I assisted Bob Mackie for 2 years, and I assisted Pete Menefee for a number of years, 3 or 4 years. And through them, I really learned a tremendous amount. But after a while, I realized that if I wanted to design on my own, I had to do something about it. So I started designing for Equity Waiver shows. And it was very hard because I'd be working all day.
Do you want to explain to the young people out there what equity waiver is?
Yes, yes.
Speak to them directly because they don't know.
Well, I hope I give the correct interpretation. Equity waiver is stage plays that are done where the equity contract, the union contract, is waived so that actors are able to work in their craft, experiment, do good work in the theater, and directors get to direct, and designers get to design, and audiences get to see some wonderful theater.
But no one gets paid.
But no one gets paid. It is a labor of love, and yes, that is the major difference between a regular equity contract and equity waiver. So I designed a number of equity plays and started to get my name out as a designer on my own and not as an assistant designer. And basically my first chance to do a series was based on an interview. Someone recommended me. And I'm always grateful to producers that will give you your first chance, because it's so easy to say, well, you haven't done this before, so I'm going to go with someone else. And it's wonderful when someone will say, I'm going to take a risk. You haven't done it before, but I believe you can do it. And that's a wonderful feeling, and you want to work even harder to prove that they were right.
Now, you have a great credit to your name, the play Tamara.
Yes.
You want to speak about that?
Sure. This is a very interesting play because it's not done on a proscenium regular stage that we're used to where an audience sits in front. It's a play that's done in a house that represents the house where the action takes place, and the audience stands all around the actors. And as the play progresses, the actor will move to another room and the audience will follow the actors. And then some actors will go to one room to do a scene and others will go to another, and the audience can choose which actors they want to follow. And all the threads of the story eventually get brought back together.
Is this a period?
It's period. It's set in the 1920s. It's based on true story. It's based on a well-known person who lived in Italy. And it was a great challenge for me because not only did I get to do 1920s clothing, but I also had to solve a lot of problems that were very unique. One being the audience so close. I could not cheat in any way. When I say cheat, for instance, I couldn't put a big zipper down the back of a 1920s dress because the audience stands right behind
Which
them.
is done in film, right?
Which is done in film
Yes.
or on stage where they're not going to see.
Yes.
I had to use fabrics that would look very expensive because these people are wealthy and artists and
you had very little money to do that, right?
not enough money, and the producer kept saying, make sure these costumes last. I want them to last forever. So.
Okay, now if you had to choose right now, since you have done every medium, except film, you have not done film yet.
Not really, no.
Which do you enjoy the most?
That's so hard to say. I really like television. You know, television is sometimes treated like the poor relative. And everyone says, but of course, my dear, you want to do film. But I really do enjoy television. I'd like to do more and more quality television and more challenging projects. But I like the efficiency and the speed with which it's done. I say speed. Sometimes speed, you do lose a little of the detail. But there's something kind of exciting about the pace of it, and I do enjoy that. I also love stage, too. It's a different type of experience.
Now, do you have any regrets of not having continued dancing?
Again, that's not easy to answer. I can't say that my life would have turned out any differently if I'd done something differently, so I can't say regrets. I wish I'd done that. But if you ask me, would I have loved to have danced Sleeping Beauty, you know, at the Royal Opera? Well, of course, yes. You know, that would be wonderful to have been able to dance the great roles. I wish I had.
Now, when you dress the actors, is it just your own design, or do you have to talk to the director and the producer and the actors sometimes?
Oh, I talk to everybody. It's very, very collaborative. I start with the producer and the director because they very often have an image. They've cast the character a certain way, they've written the character a certain way, and they know very much how they want the character to be. So I need to know that information. And I always talk with the actor because I feel that they should be part of the they're going to wear the clothes, they're going to perform in them, they need to feel right in them. So I ask them about colors, mainly to find out if there's a particular color they really hate. There's no point in my trying to force it on them. Or if they are very self-conscious about a certain part of their body. I need to know these things because I need to make them feel good in the clothes so that they can do their best job. Otherwise, everybody's fighting everybody, and it needs to be collaborative, and it needs to feel good for everybody.
My producer is giving me the high sign. At this part of the program, we usually ask our guests if they have any word of advice for the young people, and or for the parents, and or for the educators, or for all of them. So, up to you.
Well, I believe if you love what you do, then you'll work harder, and I think you have to put in the homework. You really have to love it so much that you're willing to put in the extra hours, do the extra research, be a sponge for information, ask everybody for advice, be a pain in the neck, you know, ask anyone. Actually, people love to be asked for their advice, so it doesn't work out that badly. Soak up information and say yes to every opportunity, because if somebody offers you something, they must believe you can do it. And you just say yes, don't turn anything down, and then you can quickly go to the library and do your research or ask around, say, I've never done this before, how do I do it? And do it, but don't turn down an opportunity.
What about the parents or the educators?
Well, I just feel that they should be as supportive as possible, because there's really no other way to be. To say, well, you really shouldn't be doing this, you should be doing something else, is only going to make the children more
rebellious?
Rebellious, exactly.
Okay. Well, we have to wrap it up. So I want to thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. Oh, I do want to ask you something. Do you have a new hobby that you carry around these days? No?
Not yet, but if I had a lap computer, I might carry that around. I like
Really?
to write, yes.
I see. Well, you see, Diana was too tall, but she did not let that stand in her way. She's working in the entertainment field where she wanted to be. So could you. Remember, keep watching us, because we keep watching out for you. Thank you. Till next time.